Every couple of days, you should look over your flute to make sure that there are no loose screws. There are a couple of places where there are tiny screws on your flute. And you want to make sure that they're staying in the same spot. On the ends here are two really good spots where some of the times the keys come loose. You also want to polish your keys every couple of days. You want to make sure that you keep everything in good working order. The last thing about the flute is on the head joints. The head joint has a top piece. This is the cap, and you do not ever want to twist it, turn it, or take it off. It adjusts inside the end cork, which seals your flute, and if it moves, your flute will be out of tune. So make sure you don't mess with this end cap. If you find it to be loose, see your teacher, and we'll help you fix it. Disassembling the oboe when you're completed playing for the day is the opposite process of putting it together. First thing you're going to do is take off that reed. Sometimes they get a little tight, so little wiggles will pull them out. Sometimes they're really tight.
You can do it, strongman.
I could do it. There we go. All right, got it. So the reed comes out, and it goes into my special reed case that I have for specifically oboe. Open it up, and I'll place my reed inside so that it can dry. If you don't have one of these special reed cases and your reed comes in a tube, you want to make sure to poke a hole in that tube so it can dry. Otherwise, the moisture will stay inside, and moisture creates mold, which is gross. So make sure you let your reeds dry in their special cases. For right now, I'm going to put it back into the water so it stays safe. The upper joint comes off again, making sure to depress the keys that you would normally place your fingers on so that you don't damage any of the bridge keys. Goes back into the case where you got it from. The same thing with the bell. Hold down the bridge key and keep your fingers close to the keys that you would normally use. Small twists, they come apart, and the oboe goes back into the case the way that you found it. One other major important thing is to clean out your oboe every single time. This is a swab. It's actually meant for clarinets, but we can use it for right now on the lower joint of the oboe because it's large enough. You want to drop the weight into the oboe, let it fall through, and then pull out any of that moisture that's collected inside. This will help keep your oboe working the way it's supposed to. You'd repeat the process with the upper joint with a smaller swab, and then your oboe would be clean and ready to go for the next time.
When you're done playing bassoon, it's time to take it apart in reverse order and do a little bit of care and maintenance. So the first thing is to protect your reed. Your reed needs to go in a case where it can dry thoroughly, otherwise it might grow some moldy grossness. So there are special cases, reed cases for double reeds. So I'm going to put mine in here. Yours might have come in a tube or kind of a hinged case. Make sure that there's airflow so that the reed can dry. Next, I'll take out the bocal, put it back in the case. Take it out with a twisting motion. All the parts with cork should be thoroughly greased so that they move correctly. And I'm actually going to unclip my seat strap so that I can kind of move this around the way I need to. The next thing I'm going to do is actually take I'm going to take off the bell. So you need to push down the bell key so that it's lifted up from that bridge key. I'm holding on mostly on the wood so I don't bend any keys, and put the bell back in the case. Next I will take off the long joint, the one that sticks up more than the others. I'm holding on mostly on wood, and if you cork grease this, then you shouldn't have any problem just slowly twisting it out. Alright, long joint goes back in the case. Now it's time for the wing joint. Best place to hold is kind of in this wooden curve because that gives you a lot of space where you're not going to crush any keys. Slowly twist that out. It goes back in the case right next to the long joint, and now you have the boot left. Now all of these pieces may have moisture in them, and the boot you may even be able to pour some out. So you're going to take a bassoon swab like this and run the weight that's at the end of the string through that part of the instrument, and this is going to help you remove any moisture on the inside that might damage it or make things kind of grow when you don't want to. So you run it through there, you run it through the boot, and to remove water from the bocal, you actually blow through the cork side to make sure you don't have any drips in there. Store all of your accessories and your reeds, and you can get rid of that reed water, and you're done. Now it's time to take the clarinet apart. So first thing you want to do is store your reeds somewhere safe. Remember that, yes, your reeds come in this plastic case, but this one's better. Storing it that way is going to prevent it from getting chipped, as well as keep it from warping. You want it to be flat so it seals against the mouthpiece. Now, before we take it apart, you're going to take this swab and remove all the moisture from your clarinet. But you do it upside down. So you put this weight inside the bell until it comes all the way out. Oops, I didn't do that very well. Let's try that again. You put it inside the bell and let it fall all the way outside the mouthpiece. And then you grab it and pull it all the way through to remove all the moisture from when you're playing. And now we're going to disassemble in the reverse order that we did it, that we built it. So we'll come from top down, take the mouthpiece out. You can store the ligature on the mouthpiece, and then your mouthpiece cap, very important. Then we have the barrel. Make sure that you hold on to just the keys. If you hold on to the rods, they bend. And these keys that stick out a lot bend. So I hold on to the keys that you actually put your fingers on to play. So there's my barrel. And holding on to these keys where I play. I can take the upper joint off, holding on carefully, and the lower joint off. And they all fit back in a special place. I'll let you figure out where. It's kind of a puzzle until you figure it out. And then you're done.
We've finished playing the saxophone for the day. We need to disassemble it and put it away properly. We're going to start in the reverse order that we put the thing together. So that is starting with the mouthpiece and the ligature. I'm going to rotate that up, loosen our ligature just a little bit, and we're going to put our reed away. The best place to put a reed when you put it away is inside of its reed guard. The reed guard we recommend is this one. It has 4 places for reeds. And because this is Miss Billings' reed, I'm going to magically float it away over there. The mouthpiece should go back into the case. This one already has a mouthpiece, but you can see there's a mouthpiece cap on it, which will protect it. And then we take off the neck. The neck of the saxophone, again, is very important to be careful taking it off so that we don't end up damaging it at all. Loosen it, little twists, and it can go sitting back into the case. Most cases have a specific place for it to sit so it doesn't get damaged. Lots of saxophones are going to have a cap. We're going to put that cap back in the end here and then take off our neck strap, laying the saxophone into the case while we take off our neck strap. If you don't take off the neck strap, you're going to wear it to your next class. So make sure you always take off your neck strap, roll it up, put it into the case. Last thing we need to do is make sure that our saxophone is clean on the inside. So again, picking it up by the bell, we put the weight into the bell, get it there, it'll spin around, hopefully fall out the bottom like it's supposed to. Try that one more time. There we go. Fell out the bottom, and you pull this thing through the saxophone. Gets all the moisture out, and you lay it down in the saxophone case, put it all away, latch up the case, and you're ready to put it away.
Some general information on the care of your saxophone. Now, this looks like a giant piece of metal, so it's really sturdy, right? Nope, sorry, brass is one of the softest metals. So you need to know that things like these long rods that connect all the keys, if you squeeze on them, if you bump them into stuff, they become bent, and then your keys don't move very well. These are key guards down here that protect these pads that close at the bottom of your instrument. They do not mean that you can drop your saxophone or bump it into your neighbor's saxophone and have sword fights with it. That can't. It will bend too. The bell will bend. The keys that stick out right here, these are palm keys, and these ones, they'll bend if they get caught on anything. And then, very important at the top, because you're putting it together and taking it apart all the time, this is your octave key, bridge key. That can be very delicate and it can bend. Make sure that when you put this on, you never ever spin this all the way around because it'll get caught in this linkage. And this part right here, this octave key part, this is very easy to catch on clothing. or something like that. And if you pull it back, then your octave key won't close. A lot of stuff that needs to be treated very, very delicately on this instrument. And it is one of the more expensive woodwinds. Saxophones for replacement can cost up to a couple $1,000s. Let's talk about trumpet maintenance. Your trumpet has a lot of moving parts, and so we need to keep those oiled and greased. The first thing we're going to do is oiling the valves. Now you have 1, 2, and 3. We're going to first always start with the first valve. I'm going to loosen the top of the valve. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And now I'm not going to pull it all the way out. I'm just going to pull it out so that I can see the inside of the valve. You can see the holes that the air gets directed through. Now I'm going to take my valve oil and I'm going to put 4 to 5 drops of oil just on this outside, this silver part. Any more than that and you're going to have oil falling all over your pants. You don't want that. Now when I put it back in, I'm going to kind of twist it around because that's going to spread the oil all the way down the valve. And I'm going to spin that whole valve until I hear it click. So let's listen. Tiny little click, but that means that it's in place. Now I'm going to carefully tighten the top of that valve back down. If it doesn't thread, just keep trying to do it. It's really, really bad if you misthread it. Then you won't be able to thread it anymore. Right? If you spun your valve to the left, you would end up disassembling the valve, and you don't want that. That's much harder to deal with, and you'd have to ask a teacher for help. So you'll do the first, the second, and the third valves just like that. And always check by blowing through the instrument after each valve. If air is flowing through, that means the valve is lined up correctly. If it stops, then unscrew that valve that you just did and spin it around to the right until it clicks again. And try the next thing you need to do is grease all of your slides. You have your tuning slide right here. You have a valve slide, a first valve slide, a second valve slide, and a third valve slide. So each of these will have the same sort of process. I'm going to show you with the tuning slide. Tuning slide comes all the way out, and you're going to take slide grease, which is thicker, and you'll put a little bit right on the end. If you put it all the way down here, it's going to scrape off and you'll have a pile of goo as soon as you put it back in. So once that's on the end, the secret trick to figuring out if it's right side up is make sure the water key is down. That'll help you out.
I have a question.
What's your question, Mr. Miller?
What happens if my tuning slide's really dirty?
Oh, well then you can wipe off all the old oil and grease with a paper towel.
Thanks, Miss Billen.
And it happens. There's a lot of dirt in the air, so then you can wipe off all the old stuff. I'm going to pretend I just left my new grease on there, but you should wipe everything off and grease it again. Now, to make sure that the oil spreads all over, I'm going to insert the top one. I'm going to rotate it around, so I'm spreading all that grease all the way on the inside of that tube. And then I'll do the same thing with the bottom tube. I'll put it in, and then I'm spreading it all the way around on the inside tube. Then I can put them back. Your slides should move extremely well. They shouldn't fall out of the horn. Come talk to your teacher if they do that. But they should move very freely. So you can do that with the tuning slide, your third valve slide, second, and first. Now, monthly maintenance, you should keep your mouthpiece clean. Do not eat before you play, or all that food will get blown into the inside of your horn. Gross. And then it's kind of like you're playing on a dirty, food-filled horn all the time. So to clean your mouthpiece, there's a special little brush like this. You can get it wet with soapy water and scrub the inside and scrub the back. You can check inside your instrument, and if it looks kind of textured in there, that's all that food that's blowing in there. Oh, gross. The other spot that gets dirty is your lead pipe. That's what the mouthpiece is inserted into. So you can actually take out your tuning slide, set it somewhere safe so that nothing happens to it, and you can take this. This is a trumpet snake, and they make these for all the instruments. And you can get it wet with soapy water and run it scrubbing all the way on the inside of your lead pipe and get all that nasty stuff out of there. That's going to help your horn stay clean every month. Put it back together, and you have a well-maintained trumpet.
Daily, weekly, and monthly maintenance on the trombone is as follows. Daily, you want to make sure to empty out all the water from the bottom of your trombone before you put it away. Weekly, you want to make sure that the slide stays in good working order by cleaning and then putting new slide oil onto that slide. So the best way to do that is to take the main outer slide off, but be very careful because any dents on this slide will make the actual trombone not work. So you want to set this down very carefully on a soft surface. With a paper towel or a clean rag, sometimes old t-shirts work great, or something that you're not going to be using anymore, you want to wipe off both slides from the top to the bottom, making sure to get off all that old oil and all the dirt that's collected from the week. At the bottom, there's a section called the socks from here to the end, and you want to put about 5 to 6 drops of oil on each slide down here at the bottom. And then you'll set your oil back down, carefully pick up the tuning or the main trombone slide, making sure to put it on correctly. There is a little latch here for the slide lock, which will line up with the mouthpiece side. And then slide it back together and just move the slide back and forth for a little bit to work that oil up the slide. Do that weekly and your slide will stay in good shape. The things that we should do about monthly are cleaning of the mouthpiece, the lead pipe, and also re-oiling of the main tuning slide. Let's start in the main tuning slide and we'll go back to the lead pipe in a moment. The main tuning slide is up here, has the Yamaha emblem on this trombone. The best way to do that is again to pull it completely off. You can set the trombone down somewhere neatly or hold it carefully with your legs like I'm going to do. You're going to use another clean piece of paper towel or rag, wipe off all of the old grease, put a little bit of new grease on the end of the trombone slides, put a little bit on the end of each one. You don't want to put too much because if you fill up the whole slide, it's just going to ooze out at the top and you're going to have to wipe it off anyway. So you put a nice thin layer down here on the bottom of each slide and then put it back together. You can put them in one side at a time. Just work back and forth a little bit so that that grease is distributed evenly inside the pipe. And then they go back together. Cleaning of the mouthpiece and of the main slide is very important as well. At least once a month, you should take some warm soapy water, a mouthpiece brush, and clean out the inside of your mouthpiece. Things like food and saliva can collect in there, and we want to make sure we get that out at least every month, and sometimes even more often than that if you happen to have band right after brunch or lunch. Clean off your mouthpiece once a month. And the last section is cleaning of the main tuning slide. You can do this while oiling your slide as well, but again, we're going to take the whole slide off, set it down somewhere safe, and we're going to take a trombone cleaning snake. This snake is designed to get all that gunk out of the main slide. Push it down, working back and forth a little bit as we do. It'll eventually pop out at the bottom. There it is. You want to wash it off and then pull it gently back through. This will help get out all of the gross nastiness that is inside of the main trombone and will help keep your trombone working in great order. Last thing, put the slide again carefully back on, making sure to line up the slide lock with the mouthpiece side, and your trombone is good to go for another month.
It's time to take care of our brass instruments. So, on a weekly basis, well, after you're done playing every day, you need to make sure that the water is emptied. Now, your instrument might have multiple water keys depending on what kind of instrument it is. My water key is in back here. So I'm gonna,
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I've got two on the tuba here, one at the bottom here and one on the other side here.
So I'm gonna make sure that that's between my legs, otherwise it'll empty onto your leg, that's gross. and I'll push it while I blow through the instrument.
Perfect. The second thing that we should be doing, this is on a weekly basis, is taking care of our valves and making sure that they're going to be used, oiled and maintained properly. So what we do is that we unscrew this top part, not the actual cap part, but like right below it. We do this one at a time. You can pull the valve up about 3/4 of the way. I'm going to get a little bit of an assistance here,
It's good to have an extra set of hands.
especially on tuba because it's a big instrument.
Yeah.
And you want to place about 4 or 5 drops on the metal parts of the instrument inside here, the valve. You don't want to put too much down because it will run down the side of the tuba and end up on your leg. You want to turn to the right,
Always to the right.
always to the right. If you turn
Don't
to
go
the
left.
other direction, you might end up unscrewing your entire valve, and that takes a teacher to fix.
The tuba will explode.
Tuba won't explode, but it becomes a pain to fix. So always turn the valves to the right, never turn them to the left, never unscrew anything in your valves, always take care of them properly. If you listen carefully, you might hear a click. We get there. There it was. And the valve will go back into place. Make sure you thread the top back on properly and turn it until it's tight. Repeat for 1, 2, and all 3 valves. This should happen once a week.
And I'm going to add on to what Mr. Miller said. The reason that we didn't ask you to pull the whole valve out and turn this over is because there's actually a spring that's not connected to anything in there. So if you ever dump this out, this spring blends in really, really well with the carpet and you won't notice it. If you lose it, all of a sudden your horn won't work.
Definitely. So be careful and only take the valve out about 3/4 of the way.
Next, we need to make sure that the other moving part, which is the tuning slides and the individual valve slides, are greased. This is something you can do about once a month. So we're going to show you on, I think, a main tuning slide.
Yes.
All of your slides should, all of your valves at the very bottom should have spots that move. You just pull out so that they can be adjusted. Since this one's out, I guess I'll grease this one.
It's a little hard to see on the tuba here, but this is the main tuning slide, comes out from the lead pipe to the main tuning slide.
So the first thing I'm going to do is clean off the old oil, because once it's oiled or greased, dirt sticks to it. And then that makes it not slide as well. So we're going to get it clean, and then we use this stuff, tuning slide grease. We put a little bit on the very, very end of that slide. And the reason we just put it on the end, oh, I'm sharing?
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
You're welcome. The reason we put it on just the end is because when you push it back in, it'll actually spread up. Which one? It'll spread up the inside. So you don't need to put it all the way there. And there will be too much grease if you do that, and it'll end up kind of squishing it up, and you'll end up with a big glob. One thing you could do is put one end in first, and you can work it around like this. That helps spread that grease all over the inner tubing. Do it on both sides, and then once you put it back together, man, that moves so much better than when I took it out. If you have trouble putting it back in, make sure that you're putting it in straight and one side isn't going in more than the other. That's one of the tricky things. It's a long set of tubing. The next thing we're going to do while Mr. Miller is putting his tuba back together is talk about cleaning the mouthpiece. Once a month, you're going to want to look at the inside of the mouthpiece. If you can see in this back tubing, if there's a bunch of lumpy stuff there, that might be dried spit and food. Unfortunately, some of us have brunch or lunch right before we play. You really shouldn't eat before you play. So that's why we need to make sure that the stuff is cleaned. There's special brushes for mouthpieces, so you can get this wet in soapy water and just scrub on the inside and scrub the back bore. And then you can also clean.
Cleaning the lead pipe is also very important. That's the part that the mouthpiece goes into and is also most likely to collect all the dirt. So again, removing that main tuning slide is likely when you do the tuning slide greasing, this would be the best time to also clean out the section of the tuba, or the baritone, or the trombone, or the trumpet, or the French horn. They make what are called cleaning snakes for brass instruments. This one is flexible and it has a brush on either side. You put it inside the main section of the tuba, push it through, working it back and forth a couple of times, and eventually it'll pop out down here where the main tuning slide connects. When it pops out, there's probably going to be some grime and grossness on it. We scrub it out, pull it back out the front, and then you can put the main tuning slide back in, and it's ready to go for another month.